Am I on? I am. Okay. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you. We do thank you for our lives. We thank you for the forgiveness of sin. We are sorry, Father, for the condition we find ourselves in because of ourselves, and we rejoice that you love us enough to forgive us, and we look forward to that home with you in the end of our lives. We thank you, Father, for the Bible, and we ask, Father, that you might help us to glean from it, discover, as it will, those things which might be able to help us in our lives and to be helpful to others. In Jesus' name, amen. I guess everybody knows that there's a storm coming, right? Apparently. Does everybody know that?
No. I do.
Okay, you need to tell John. Okay. I guess it's... Okay, all right. And apparently it's, if it persists with the models, it'll arrive in our area somewhere around midday on Sunday. Anyway, keep looking for it. I think the name of it's going to be Nate. The Weather Channel said there's nothing to stop it, so we'll see. Okay, Hosea. Let's open the Bibles, if you would, to Hosea, and hopefully, Lord willing, we'll have a couple of sessions with Hosea. It's got 14 chapters. Let's see if we can't. We'll get as far as we can tonight. Also, by the way, how many, it just occurred to me, I already spoke this to someone, that, man, November's coming soon, and I guess we're going to like the Red Sea or the Reed Sea, or the divide. And I know we don't like that word divide, but at any rate, it's kind of a sad day already to me. I didn't think I would feel that way. Honestly, I've been traveling all my adult life and from one congregation to another. But anyway, I know that there's several here that won't be in this class here at the end of the month. So anyway, also after this class concludes in November, it's my understanding that Joe is going to bring, is that right, a class on Corinthians? Bible books, okay. Yeah, okay, 1st, 2nd Corinthians. So, good deal. All right, let's see if we can see what we can glean from Hosea. The minor prophets are probably the least, possibly, I don't know, you could probably pull out a couple of others. Song of Songs, Song of Solomon. That's probably a little studied book. But these as a group are fairly little studied books, I think. And maybe for what we think is legitimate reasons. But I think that there's an awful lot there that applies to us now. Because as you know, I've said everybody has their own, well, a lot of us have their own definition of the Bible. I think the Bible, to me, it's a library of prophetic books about what? Yahweh, God. I know that people will say, why does he always use Yahweh? Because Yahweh used Yahweh, okay? It's about Yahweh and being his covenant people. And I'll tell you, when you look at the prophets, we're dealing with Yahweh, his character, the way he is, and it relates to his covenant people. In this case, we've been talking about the northern kingdom, but also the southern kingdom. Okay, here's that's my standard slide. I mean, haven't had any takers, but shouldn't be afraid of me. If you've got an issue, comment, whatever, let me know. Okay, and this slide, some of it come from different sources. The bad on it came from me, no doubt, and I've used it for several years. I can't remember who originally got it from, but it didn't have a lot of this on, which might have been for the good. So here we are
It's good to know, I think, in history where we are to understand, God's developing something. He's developing His covenant people so He can bring this solution to our problem, to the sin problem, which occurred way back there in Genesis, right? And if you know the Bible, track the Bible. Genesis, these are ones you ought to know. Genesis 3:15, there's a promise. Many people call it the seed promise, right? There's a promise God makes. And it has to do with Satan, and it has to do with the seed of the woman, okay? And so Genesis 3:15. If you'll go from Genesis 3:15, pull your Bibles over to Isaiah 7:14, okay? And then, because you're going to see the progress of what he said in Genesis 3:15, and then go into Matthew and look at the birth of Christ. It's happening. All these things which God had said is going to happen. And then, of course, I think the cross itself in Acts 2:38. Whole of Acts 2, really. Okay. Here we are. We're at Hosea. What you probably ought to know is that we've covered Jonah. We covered Joel separately. I would suggest to you that as far as I'm personally concerned, I'm not convinced of when Obadiah and Joel happened. Okay? Maybe you are, and that's okay. But most of the books put it as early. And you notice that we covered Joel, but we didn't cover Obadiah. Now, I'm going to cover Obadiah later, okay? And Obadiah has to do with what? Not Israel, really, and not Judah. It has to do with what? Edom, okay? Esau. It's going to deal with that. And so anyway, we'll hit that eventually. Okay. Hosea, we're hitting it right on the heels of Amos. Jeroboam II is king of Israel still. He's a good or a bad guy? He's the worst kind of a guy. He is horrible. He is still in power. Most folks think that Hosea probably ranges from after Jeroboam departs, and it's a bloody mess. Let me tell you, the kings after that. Israel is toast; they're gone. But that this possibly bumps right up to about 725, and they're going to be gone. 722, it all falls down on them. So Hosea probably lived even past that point. Okay, most folks think. So Hosea is what we're going to deal with. If you want to know what's going on in the southern kingdom, prophets, Micah, which we're going to cover next, Lord willing. Micah is prophesying, and Isaiah is prophesying, okay, in the south at the same time. This is a tough time for the Hebrew people because God is about to slam His doors on them, okay? So, there's where we are. And that's where I put it. And these are the way I'm going to cover them, the sequence that I plan to cover them. We'll cover Micah next. And so you know that Micah, even though it's going to be a southern prophet, he's going to let the northern kingdom have it. It's still during Jeroboam's time, okay? So there's some stuff devoted here to the time of Jeroboam. Reason? Because Israel has gone off the rails, okay? All right. And you know that this is kind of a, can you read that? Oh, yeah, okay. This is to remind you of where we are, okay? Israel exists, the northern kingdom exists from 931 to 722, or 721, okay? And what happened in 931 that caused this, that provoked this divided kingdom? You remember? Rehoboam, that's right. But the guy that did it is the guy that many of you absolutely love. I don't. I mean, I don't think a lot of him. It was a king named Solomon. He was a bad actor. He was a bad actor, and he caused this division. He had took many wives and permitted them to have their idol worship and the high places worship. And he not only permitted it, he did it. He worshiped as well. Read the text. He was a bad guy, and God ended it. God said, "I'm ending it because of that. I'm going to give the northern kingdom to a guy who's not of royal blood, named Jeroboam the first. And the southern, I'll give him to your boy Rehoboam." Okay, and so we won't go there except to say, go back to read 1 Kings chapter 12, and you'll see how that happens. It's an interesting story. It's a great story. Read it. It's actually a fun story to read. Read about Rehoboam, what he tried to pull, and basically God pulled the rug out from under him as well, because he tried to keep them together, etc. Okay. And then 2 Kings 17, I just wanted to make there. There's another good chapter to read because it really talks about, the end of Israel and why, and it catalogs it. So that's a good chapter to read too. Okay. So, you see Judah is going to last until, I always put the three, I'm hesitant to put a date because in 606 was the first time, it's going to be the Babylonians, are going to come down. And they take, and really, from there on, they're not an existing kingdom. They pay tribute, and the Babylonians, and they basically say who the king's going to be. And then in 596, he comes down again. The reason they come down, this 596 thing, is because they keep making treaties, trying to make treaties with who? Egypt. And the Babylonians hate the Egyptians. And it's kind of funny, isn't it? God said early on, you don't do business with the Egyptians. They made you slaves. But God's people, north and south, keep playing this thing about, playing up to the Egyptians and playing up to the whoever's the northern kingdom, Syrians, Babylonians. So anyway, finally the Babylonians they have their stomach filled. The kings they do install in Judah say that they won't, they'll keep paying tribute and won't go to Egypt, but they do. So finally in 586, the temple's destroyed. Jerusalem's basically destroyed. So, okay. I didn't really intend to go that far, but... Okay, Hosea. Hosea means salvation. It's kind of funny. Hosea is interesting. The word Hebrew comes from a word which is very akin to the word Joshua, which in Hebrew, what's Jesus' name probably in Hebrew? Kind of gave it away, huh? Yeah. In fact, you know that there's no J in Hebrew? J comes from German. That's translation. So there's no Hebrew J. It's a Y almost every time. Yahshua, they would never, and if you talk to a true Hebrew, he won't, when he says, you say, turn to the book of Joshua, do you have it in your book? He'll say, Yahshua? Yeah, Yahshua. Okay. Salvation is kind of what it means. Well, that's what Joshua means. And Jesus, Jesus is a Greek name. Most likely his name is Joshua. Yahshua. Okay, so it's a very similar name to those. Just information, okay? All right. They call him, I like they call him the prophet of the broken heart. When you read this book, how many have gone through it? How many were able to get through the book in one setting? Anybody? Come on. How long do you think it takes? It took me 31 minutes to read it this afternoon. Okay. And it was in a version I'm not used to. So read the book. I mean, it's just for you. It's for your benefit. You read through it. It's just amazing, I think. Okay. Here's what I believe possibly are the main themes. I will say I've changed these probably, 3 times in the last 3 weeks. These are the main themes I think are there. Okay? Particularly, again, from the first 3 chapters. But, okay? And that's God today, right? Is God the same today as he was then? He is. And if you go back to Malachi, God says that. He says, I'm the same. I'm changeless. Okay? So there is no God of the Old Testament. No, even though, I recall Steve Spurrier saying that on TV back when he was coaching Florida. I actually remember the whole occasion, but anyway, he told the guy that his quarterback he believed in the God of the New Testament. He said, I believe in the God of the Old Testament. I'm hard. He's the same God. Okay? If he's hard and tough in the Old Testament, he's hard and tough now. He doesn't put up with us beyond a certain point, and never has and never will. Background. Okay, Hosea, don't know much about him. He was the son of this fellow, Beeri. And this is only a guess. Don't know where he's from, except that he was from Israel, the northern kingdom, probably the southern part. I've read a lot about it, and there's a lot of clues that give you an idea that he is, but it's of no matter to me necessarily. I give you the message of the book when it is. We know it. I don't think it's any later than 725 that the whole thing was given. The whole message, it was given over time, as almost all the prophets were. Okay, and then we're fortunate enough to have it in one book. All right. It was a turbulent time. And if I'm right about the dates, 7 kings ruled the northern kingdom, and the last few was a bloody mess. Let me tell you, a lot of assassination, etc., before the Assyrians finally came in and destroyed them. All right. I told you already that Isaiah and Micah were prophesying in Judah. Lord willing, we'll get to Micah, and you'll see a lot of familiarity. In fact, when you go through this, you say, wow, did we already study this? No. But the last prophet we studied talked about how bad things were in Israel. They were horrible. All right. This is the thing and this sets God off. If you read the book, you can see little snippets of it. This irritates God, that these Jews the Hebrews of south and north, that they keep going to some other power, a foreign power, an ungodly power, to try to get help and to bail them out. And in Israel, as well as Judah, by the way, there's always an argument going on amongst the elite about, okay, should we go and get Egypt to help us, or should we go up there and get them? God hates this. If you read the whole thing, read it through, and you're going to see time and again, you'll see it. He says one time, he says, you're like a silly dove, Israel. What does a dove do? You ever go dove hunting? They're not smart. Okay, yeah. Well, and God calls Israel a silly, he said, you're a silly dove. And when you go on, they're a silly dove because they think they'll go to Egypt and they go up there. They think that they're going to help them out. And what's ultimately going to happen is the kings post themselves with Assyria, and as soon as Assyria gets all the tribute from them, they do what? They attack them, destroy them. Okay, they're a silly dove. I think I've got that text in a reading. Okay, so they're, as we said to the last prophet, they're economically prosperous, spiritually bankrupt. Okay. And I think you can learn a whole lot about God in Hosea. Okay, here's how it's organized. There are a lot of symbols and metaphors in these books in general, but in this one, a bunch. And the most prominent one is the marriage idea and the parent-to-child idea. We're going to see that in chapter 1 to 3, it's a strange set of things that happen. Hosea, you'll see, is told to marry a whore. We don't understand. The argument goes on and on as to whether or not she was already whatever, or whether she became, but he was told to marry her. Okay, the image is going to be in the first 3 chapters. The image is God to all of Israel, okay? God to Israel, the marriage. And it's a parallel with this marriage Hosea has to Gomer, the woman he marries, and her adultery and her situation in total. And we'll see that, okay? And it's an interesting thing that God did. Did he, let me just end it here, did God tell him to marry? Remember, and when you look at this, remember he's talking about Israel. But did Hosea literally, was he literally told by God to marry a prostitute, an existing prostitute? Or is it a figurative thing? Or was she a prostitute before he married? Or did she become one? And all those are questions that I'll just leave with you. Nobody knows. The scholars argue about it. I don't think it matters. But here's what I always think about. Every time I look at the chapter, I think, what was Israel when God married Israel at Sinai? Exodus 19. Was Israel a prostitute existing when he married Israel? Yeah. Israel had already taken off with idols and such. So anyway, that's the 3-chapter parallel that you're going to see, okay? You'll see that they have 3 children. That's an interesting thing. And the names of the children are very interesting. They're purposely so, okay? And we'll cover that. All right, so I've shown you the parallels, I think, of the marriage itself, the adultery, and then the restoration. And there is restoration in the first 3 chapters when Hosea is told to go and buy Gomer, his wife, back after she leaves him. Yes.
But it seems like part of this has to do with Gomer's lack of health, we call it attention span, but she gets distracted very easily and gets sidetracked, and that's what Israel does. With the shiny object, we start chasing things.
I think so too. And that's what I think is going on here, the whole thing. Did it actually happen? I'm going to have to say it probably did, but I don't understand it deeply. I do understand the Israel thing, because everything I say, you're right. This is Israel. This is what they've done. Short attention span, we love you, God, and then they're worshiping Baal. Boy, I hope that's not true at the church. Yeah. See, before I always am worried that because I get pretty low on Israel. I get pretty, okay, I do. I'm just telling you, I get very down on them. And I always worry a little after I've done that maybe I ought to go look in the mirror. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Okay? So anyway, try to, please guard against me doing it. But if I get too rough on Israel, don't say, maybe you ought to back off. Okay. There is hope given, and hope's kind of hard to find a little bit, but there's hope, and the hope is, honestly, as I read through there, they're gone. They're gone because of themselves, but God is He holds that hope out to them, which says a bit, talks about God, right? So the first 3 chapters are Hosea and his marriage, God and his marriage to Israel, and then chapters 4 to 14 are this very emotional book. I mean, he goes through this and he's slamming them about their sin and the judgment's going to happen and all of that. And I've given some of the things he does. And then you think, okay, he's finished with that. Maybe he'll go to something else. Pretty soon he's doing the same thing, just saying different things. So clear through 14. Now, chapter 11 I've noted to you, and chapter 14 do have some hope. Chapter 3 kind of has some hope because Hosea is told to go buy Gomer back. Okay? Gomer is, to us, is Israel, to his covenant people, right? All right. Any other comments or thoughts about that? Accusations and warnings. That's what we're going to hear. Okay. I pulled a lot of what I think are unnecessary slides out. So I want to get right into the text. Again, we'll finish this, Lord willing, next Wednesday with this. Now we'll get into it quickly and then start through the chapters. And I've just pulled out a few verses on each. And maybe I've pulled out the right ones, maybe I haven't. Read the whole chapter. Let's look at Hosea chapter 1. Verses 2 through 4. When the Lord first spoke through Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, "Go, take to yourself a wife of whoredom, and have children of whoredom. For the land commits great whoredom by forsaking the Lord." This is a tough reading, okay? Verse 3. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblam, and she conceived and bore him a son. And the Lord said to him, "Call his name Jezreel. For in just a little while I will punish the house of Jehu for the blood of Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel." Now, Jezreel is a place where multiple battles have taken place, okay? A place in Israel. Multiple battles. And you can go through them, that's Deborah, or, Saul was killed right on the edge there. Many battles. It's a plain. Jezreel is, by the way, Jezreel is a valley, and it's very fertile. It's the breadbasket of Israel. But it's a battle place. And so when he says Jezreel, name him Jezreel, it's naming somebody. Every time you think about him, if you're an Israeli, you're saying it's a place of battle. It's a battle place. Okay? All right. So the name is maybe not as charitable as you might think, okay, in these days. Many, that's right. Jezreel. Because when you go through, if you look at the map, you'll see why. If you go through the trail of the road up to the north, you got to go through Jezreel. It's a perfect, militarily, it's a great place to hit somebody. You got some mountains on the side, and it would be a great strategic place, and it was. And it's battle after battle has been fought there, and people have died. Okay. Hosea. Okay. 6 through 7. Okay, Gomer, she conceived again and bore a daughter. Now, by the way, the first one, I don't know to make anything out of this. The first kid that he has, that boy named Jezreel, it says bore him a son. It doesn't say that. No him in the rest of this. So I don't know if she's been adulterous. I suspect she has. And these kids aren't his biologically. There's good reason to believe certainly the third one isn't. But okay, just a difference in the wording may not be mean anything, but a lot of people make note of that. Okay, she conceived again and bore a daughter. It doesn't say bore him a daughter. You understand? And the Lord said to him, "Call her name No Mercy." Now, it's Lo Ruhama, which Lo is no in Hebrew, right? Lo, whatever. Call her name No Mercy. For I will no more have mercy on the house of Israel to forgive them at all. But I will have mercy on the house of Judah, and I will save them by the Lord their God. I will not save them by bow, or by sword, or by war, or by horses, or by horsemen. There's a prophecy here. Okay, first of all, let me hit No Mercy. This kid's going to be named No Mercy. Now, I've never known anybody in America that had a kid that they named him or her No Mercy. And I don't think that would be a good name, do you? Where's my granddaughter? Where is No Mercy? I mean, I don't think that's, well, it ain't good, okay? So her name is No Mercy. Okay. And then in verse 7, he's making a prophecy about Judah. See, the Assyrians, when they take Israel down, northern kingdom, they want to take the southern kingdom as well, Judah, right? And they take virtually all the cities. But they get to Jerusalem, and they've got the might. They've got all these horses and all these stuff, okay? And God says, I will save them by the Lord their God, but not by all these things. Israel doesn't save itself. Jerusalem doesn't save itself. How do they get saved? Do you remember the story? You got all these thousands of soldiers camped out in Jerusalem. What happens? And they're going to take Jerusalem. They've already taken all these other cities. They what? The angel comes and kills them all in one night. How many? Joe gave a thing on angels once about that and said, man, if one could do that, how many does he need to take down the world? Not many. What is it? I want to say 185,000. Is that right? Huh? 185,000, they die. They're killed by an angel. This is one of the first prophecies about that. Okay, so Assyria is not going to take Judah down. He says that here. Now, they're going to be taken down eventually, but not by Assyria, by Babylon. Okay. Comment or thought about that? Whenever you read lo, it's no. Okay? Lo is no. All right. Still first chapter, verses 8 and 9. And if you're in first chapter, you're going to see some other things. You probably immediately say, why didn't Jack do those? I don't know. Just didn't. Verse 8. When she had wounded no mercy, she conceived and bore a son. And the Lord said, call his name, not my people. Lo-ami. Lo-ami. Not my people. For you are not my people, and I am not your God. I think that not my people is not Hosea's kid. Okay, but I don't know. Because remember, this gal is prostituting herself, right? So anyway, okay, not my people. And that's not a good name either, right? Wouldn't want to go around that with that name. Not my people. But think about what he's just said about Israel. You're not my people, and I'm not your God. Now, see, the problem is with Israel that they bank on being on the sons of Jacob, sons of Abraham. They bank on that. Take it to the bank. No matter what I do, I'm God's people. They're not God's people just because they're related to Abraham, to Jacob. By the way, I didn't make a note of it, but the people, the northern kingdom, you'll see them called Israel, you'll see them called Ephraim, and you'll see them called Jacob. These are different names for them. They have a little subtlety to them, but I'll leave that to you to find the subtlety, I think, that there in each of the names. But they're talking about the same people in general, okay? Northern kingdom. Right, Hosea, chapter 2, verse 2 and 3. Plead with your mother. Plead. Now, he's talking to these kids, the children of Gomer and Hosea, right? Hosea's, and here, and we go back and forth with, is it God speaking directly or is it Hosea speaking? You kind of see most of the time the translators have used, they've said, that's when God's speaking. There's a time or two when I'm not sure. Okay, plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife. So this is Hosea, right? And I am not her husband, that she put away her whoring from her face and her adultery from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked and make her as in the day she was born, and make her like a wilderness, and make her like a parched land, and kill her with thirst. Is God happy? No. Gomer is Israel. Israel's the covenant people. We're covenant people. Is he happy? Is he happy with us? Are we doing things? I would just plead to you, look at yourself in the mirror as we read through this. Okay, Hosea 2, 5, verse 5 through 8. For their mother has played the whore. I remember a long time ago I read this and I substituted word for WHORE and tried to polite it down a little bit. But I'm not going to do that anymore. You know what? Because God used it. I think it's almost wrong that I did that when I used to do it. It's what he said. And in the original language, it's that at least. For their mother has played the whore. She who conceived them has acted shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers who give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, my oil and my drink. Gimme, gimme. They're giving her, right? She thinks. Therefore I will hedge up her way with thorns, and I'll build a wall against her, so that she cannot find her paths. She shall pursue her lovers, but not overtake them, and she shall seek them, but shall not find them. Then she shall say, I will go and return to my first husband, God, for it was better for me then than now. And she did not know. This is crucial. See, she just said that they're taking care of her, giving her bread. See, these people that she's whoring with, they're giving her stuff, right? Taking care of her. Now, God's going to say something here that's interesting. And she did not know that it was I, God, who gave her the grain, the wine, and the oil, and who lavished on her silver and gold, which they used for Baal. Often we don't know that God is providing. So God's the provider, right? And she didn't. She thought they were doing this for her. Okay. As we get close to wrapping this evening. Hosea 2, 14 through 15. He's going to refer to something I put in this afternoon, this green here on the Valley of Achor. And there's what I think about it. I know what it is. In Joshua 7, you'll recall that that a family, Achan, when Israel, with Joshua, took Jericho, one family took stuff, right? Gold and silver stuff, when they weren't supposed to do it. They weren't supposed to take anything. They took it. And it comes, as they attack Ai, they find out, well, why is God not with us? And ultimately find out that Achan has stolen it and he's got it in his tent. Now, his whole family's killed, and it's called the Valley of Achor. They kill him, stone him, the whole family, animals as well. And they leave some rocks there, and they call it Achor. So anyway, and so it's a disciplinary thing, I think. I think God is just showing the discipline which had an impact on Israel from there on. You know, how many other people from there on were taking stuff that they did what they're supposed to take? How many do you think? Not many, right? I'd be thinking twice before I took stuff I wasn't supposed to take it, right? And that is what happened. Okay, 14. Verse 14, chapter 2. Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her, and Gomer, Israel. And there I will give her her vineyards and make the valley of Achor a door of hope. I think that has to do with the discipline, after the discipline that things will look up. And there she shall answer as in the days of her youth, as at the time when she came out of the land of Egypt. There's the kind of hope God has for his covenant people. Read that. There's still hope. Maybe. All right. I guess let me just see. I thought I had one. No. We'll go to 3 next time. So, if you'll read, I would beg you to read at least the first 3 chapters and read a chapter 2 on further than that. We will next time, Lord willing, cover chapter 3 in the same way. Some of the chapters I'll only give you 3 or 4 verses. And hopefully, Lord willing, we'll finish Hosea, and then Mike will be our next prophet. our next victim. Thank you. Have a great week, and let's hope the storm doesn't get us. No, I don't. Let me turn it on.